Welcome back to Popular Preparedness. Today we're going to talk about how to build a warm room inside your home. These are strategies and tips on how to keep one room in your house warm in a survival situation. Perhaps you have a mobile heater. Maybe the electricity is cutting in and out and you can only heat for a little bit of time and you don't have enough time to warm up the whole house. This would be when you want to use space heaters to heat up that one room as fast as you can before the electricity cuts out again. Perhaps you have a propane heater, but you can only use that in one place. Or perhaps you have a wood burner or something along those lines that can heat up theoretically the whole house, but maybe it might be more efficient not to. Or in the worst case scenario, you don't have any heat at all and you're just trying to survive with passive heat sources like yourselves. So let's go through these. The first thing is we must remember when it comes to heating or staying warm, we need to have layers, as many layers as possible. So your house is like an outer layer, and it's going to give you a significant temperature bump from the outside temperature to the inside temperature. By creating another inner layer, another room inside, you can actually use that air in between the inner room and the outer walls of your home as another buffer. This is similar to what, like a puffy coat does, right? You have the outer layer and then you have like the filler material that just kind of holds the air in there, and then you have the inner layer, and that creates warmth. Well, it keeps warmth from going through the coat to the outdoors and bleeding off into space. So we're using the same strategy. This is what we did in winters over in along the border of Afghanistan. We had electricity cutting in and out. We would have 3 hours on, 3 hours off, or sometimes it was 3 hours on, 6 hours off, or 3 hours on, 9 hours off, depending on how much electricity they had. And the electricity that you had was not very powerful because the wire conductors in your house were actually aluminum, not copper. So if you tried running too much juice through one of the outlets, it would actually just burn the wire. And that's not a good thing. So you can only draw so much electricity out of the outlets. And so we had to use those infrared heaters, the ones with like bulbs in them almost. So you couldn't really even just use resistance heaters. You actually had to use those infrared bulb heaters. That they're just as efficient as resistance heaters, but they actually, by throwing the light off, it strikes your skin and it feels warmer. So it feels warmer, but it really isn't much warmer at all. It's just as efficient. But that's what we ended up having to use. So what I did in my apartment was, it was one of those old Soviet bloc apartments. The outer apartment was the air block, right? And then I had an inner room. All the windows that we had, my windows were 4 panes thick. They had 2 windows, and each window had 2 panes in it. 4 panes thick. Then what I did was I put plastic over the window, taped it down, get clear plastic, tape it down. Then I put another layer of plastic over that, taped it down, even bigger against the wall. Then I put curtains up over top of that to kind of insulate it even more. And sometimes I would even hang a blanket over that in addition to that. What the people over there would often do, and most of them would do, is because the walls are like concrete, they would actually hang carpets on the walls. So that gives some insulation off the concrete itself. And then the doors, what you do is the inner door between your warm room and the rest of the apartment or house or whatever it is in the situation. What you can do is you can kind of almost make an airlock out of it. So you have the door, and then what you do is you put a blanket up there, and you can either nail it in or you can attach the blanket somehow. You're going to be moving the blanket back and forth a lot, so you got to make sure it's secured pretty well. And so then there's that blanket on that side of the door, and then you can put another blanket on this side of the door and nail it up and that kind of creates like this airlock, so the air gaps around the door don't get pass off too much heat. You can also use cardboard. If there's a significant gap down at the bottom of the door, you can actually just lay down cardboard up to the point where the door actually has to brush against the cardboard. You can also put those little rubber flaps on the door. You can makeshift that with tape. So if you take tape and put it down like that, and then you put sticky side against that, so it's kind of just a flap on either side, so that you got the flaps on the door to make sure that the air isn't going underneath the door. Lots of different things you can do with that. Now, in your warm room, what are you going to do in the warm room? The answer is you're going to do everything you can in the warm room. You're going to cook in there because you want to retain that heat. You're not going to want to go to the bathroom in there. That's for sure. That's basically the main reason you're going to go out of that room. Is you're going to want to sleep in there if necessary. Sleeping, you don't need to be as warm, so you can actually sleep in a different room. So I didn't sleep in my warm room. I had my warm room, which was my living room, and then when I went over to sleep, I just had lots and lots of blankets, and I just piled up the blankets on top of me, and I was able to stay warm enough that way, right? But sometimes having to wear a hat to bed because it was cold. Now, everything else in your house or your apartment will freeze. So you do need to take care of, make sure that your plumbing is drained of liquid. So you want to drain all the water out of there. And this is probably going to be a good case that you might want to actually carry buckets of water up into your house. If you don't want them to freeze and it's really, really cold, you can actually take those buckets of water into your warm room. So basically, since that's going to be a place where you're going to hang out with your family, you're going to want to put like padding down. You might actually want to take the furniture out. So like if you have a couch, you might want to take the couch out and actually just put the cushions in there. It's a little more flexible for when people want to like sleep, having everyone on the same level. Or, you just figure it out for yourself. But the other thing you want to do in the warm room, if you have intermittent heat, one thing you can do is by having those buckets of water, it actually adds a lot of thermal mass to it. So when you get the temperature of the room up, the buckets of water will slowly warm up. And then when, if you lose the heat or whatever, then the buckets will slowly release that heat into the room. So there's that can be actually a good idea. Also, it'll keep the water from freezing, and then also that's stuff you're going to need. If you're going to be cooking in there, you're going to need water in there. You're going to need water to drink. So that might be something to keep on hand. Canned goods do freeze, but they won't freeze while they're sitting on the shelf. I learned this the hard way. I pulled a can of green beans off the shelf and coveted from America. Yes. Probably stolen off a shipment to a U.S. embassy, not by me, but I bought it off somebody who may have bought it from somebody who may have bought it from somebody who may have stolen it or something. Who knows? How else they got their hands on American green beans, I have no idea. But the can, I picked up the can, I put it up to my ear, I swished it, and I hear swish, 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 swish. It's fine. I took the can opener, started opening the can, and as soon as that can opener bit into it, it went and it just shot freezing green bean juice all over the place as it froze from the bottom up. The reason why it hadn't frozen was because it was under pressure. As soon as I released that pressure, it just froze solid. So green beans and other canned goods can freeze. So, but most of the time, it seems like they won't freeze while they're sitting on the shelf, but you're going to have to warm them up before you try opening them, or else they will explode in your face and then turn into this ice block, which is not very useful. So you're going to want to pre-stage the food you're going to need, and you're also going to want to make sure that you have a quick access to a bathroom. And if your plumbing is down, that bathroom may not be indoors. So you may need to figure out a outdoor kind of pit toilet of some sort. And you're not going to be able to dig that when it's frozen in the ground. When it's frozen on the ground, no digging going on there. So you need to think through that. You can set up, like, use your bathroom as like with mobile bathrooms, like using bucket toilets. So people can go into the bathroom, use a bucket toilet, and then they can then carry the bucket outside and go dump it in an appropriate place. Just make sure that you know what you're doing with that. You can create a line that people throw the buckets over the line, especially if it's like a downhill kind of thing. And then if it's snow, covered in snow. If it's dirt, then you can cover it up in dirt or leaves or something like that, just so it's not exposed to the air. So in super cold temperatures, this is not going to be a super high priority, okay? Because diseases aren't going to be spread as much when it's super cold outside from, pit toilets and stuff. People are going to go outside, get done whenever they need to do, and get back inside. But you need to be very, very conscious of hygiene when you're cold, because that's going to be the last thing people are going to want to deal with. Hygiene really drops when it's cold, because, are you going to bathe when it's freezing cold? You're not going to. If you need to bathe because it's been cold for a long time, what you're going to want to do is you want to heat up the bathroom or wherever you're going to wash. Heat up a washroom of some sort. Heat up some water. And then what you're going to do is you're going to need to get people in and out of that bathroom to wash up. And it's probably going to be more of a sponge bath. But that way you heat it up once, and everybody needs to go in and get their one at a time, get their bathing done and get their clothes back on, come back in, next person hot bunks in there before the room cools off. You can heat that up with like a propane heater, or you can heat it up with a very careful wood burner. In a bathroom, if you have a lot of tile, that's a little safer to do in there, but you still have to be very, very careful with all these things. So that's some thoughts on a warm room. Propane is good, but you need to be careful with it. Use your cooking heat for cooking, and then also, eating the warm food, and then also that heating is also going to heat up the warm room. So here's some thoughts. If you have some additional thoughts, pop them in the comments down below. This is practical life experience. I lived it and seen people who have living in those situations for quite a while doing a lot of these things. And just lots and lots of blankets, guys. You need lots. You never have enough blankets. Blankets will keep you alive, even if you don't have heat. And all right. Well, this is Steve Poplar of Poplar Preparedness. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to donate to the channel to help upgrade some of the camera equipment and such like that, go down to the Buy Me a Coffee link, and 95% of it goes straight to me so that I can use that for equipment upgrades. I always appreciate that, but no pressure. All right. God bless you. Have a great day.